And welcome in to another Citrus Preps podcast as we get set for another week of high school football. I'm Brett Knudsen alongside Mike Deem as we get ready for, I guess it's week 4 for just about everybody.
Yeah.
Some people it's week 5 depending on when you had your bye week. So a busy week. Last couple weeks we have had some teams taking their bye weeks, and now this week everybody in the county back in action. So a busy week, a couple of games non-district and a couple of district ones that we'll get into with a whole lot on the line.
On the line is the last one is on the line, so it's gonna be good.
That's a real big one. So we'll start with Seven Rivers Christian. They had the bye last week after the tough loss to Cedar Creek.
Needed it.
Yeah, and they needed it. They're still trying to work things out. They will travel for the first time now to PK Yonge. First time on the road. PK Yonge has had a pretty good start to the season.
3-1,
yeah, not bad for them. And so I think for Seven Rivers, as we talked to Monty Van, it's just all about taking care of business. He's kind of been harping on the fact that guys are getting caught up trying to do too much. I mean, he keeps talking about do your job, take care of yourself, do what you're supposed to do. Everything else will take care of it if you do your job. But he's had people out of positions. Still trying to work through that passing game and get that offense going, which is a big change from what the Warriors have done in the past.
Yeah, and you got to realize, the small squad that he has, you got some guys in there that they want to be able to contribute as much as they can, and they're looking at, maybe there's a weakness in one spot that they think they can help out with, and just like you said, you got to do your job. And that was funny because I was watching NFL this last weekend, and I saw New England, and actually that's what they were talking about, and Tom Brady was yelling at his teammates, just do your job. And that's what Monty Van's probably trying to figure out. Hey, listen, you're in a position, I put you in this position to do this. Let him do his job. You just, cover him, whatever you need to do. But it's tough. It's a small squad. And Monty, with that break, gave him a little chance to kind of reorganize things and be able to get some injuries, healed up. But, he's going to come down and do a PK Yonge team that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's going to be the key. Does PK Yonge have the couple of athletes that Seven Rivers doesn't have? I mean, you look at the schedule for PK Yonge, it's not overwhelming. I know Seven Rivers feels like that they are very similar to each other. They've got an opportunity, and this is a tough stretch for Seven Rivers, and they're going to have to figure out a way to get the offense going on a consistent basis. The defense has really been pretty good this season, and I think they feel good about that. But again, when you're talking about a squad the size of Seven Rivers and guys going both ways, the week off I think helps, because now you're going to go into a stretch where the kids are going to get tired if they're not in really good shape, and that's one thing you have to be concerned about.
And offensively, they've only scored 12 points in the last 2 games, before the break. Lost 9-6 and lost 50-6 to Cedar Creek. But PK Yonge has got an excellent passer in Carter Kuchko, 45 for 78, 723 yards. They're averaging 181 yards in the air and 8 touchdowns. So they're going to have their hands full with playing that kind of a player, because they haven't seen that yet. It's a lot of rushing in that particular division that they're in. It's a lot of rush, and this is a pass kind of orientated offense.
Yeah, and we'll see if they can stand up to it and handle it the first road trip. And we talked to Seven Rivers head coach Monty Van and a couple of players leading up to this week on what it'll take to pick up a victory.
PK Yonge, they got some fast kids in the backfield. They're big up front. So defensively, stay on our keys. Comes back to, what we said before, do your job. We didn't do our job against Cedar Creek. We got really focused in on doing your job and hammering that down. So I think with our guys, if they do their jobs, they'll be just fine defensively. Offense, we just got to catch a football. We're doing a good job protecting. Brock's starting to really figure out where to put the ball. We just got to catch the ball.
We're going to have to outwork them. They have some great players. We're just going to have to outwork them. 3 next teams are going to be a tough fight. It's just whoever wants it more.
They're a lot like us, honestly. They're hard hitting, honestly, and we just need to do our jobs. We need to play assignment football and just get it done.
And there it is, Seven Rivers, 1-2 on the season, looking to even up that record at 2-2. As you mentioned, Mike, PK Yonge is 3-1 on the year, so that will be the matchup on Friday night, first road trip. I don't know if that has any influence on the outcome. Some coaches like to get on the bus and get away, and maybe it's something different. We'll see. But, as you mentioned, a week off, heal from some injuries, and try to get that offense going. They're going to have to put up some points, I think, on Friday night if they're going to pick up a win.
I agree. They've only got 99 passing yards. Brock Brock Reed, who's a coach was talking about, he's got to get that timing down with his receivers and see if they can get some points on the board.
Yeah. Got some playmakers. They've got some guys that can do some things. They've got to get them the ball, and that will be part of it. Weed's got to take that next step as a young quarterback. Not easy to do. It's not easy to do when you're trying to sort of learn on the fly. Remember, it was a kind of a short, abbreviated spring for them with Monty Van coming in, and so they're playing a little bit of catch up. We'll see if they can get things going against PK Young on Friday night. Seven Rivers on the road. Also, a road trip coming up this week for the Lecanto Panthers. They will not too far up to the Villages. Plenty of good places to eat. I'm sure they'll have a nice pre-game meal, no question about that. But take on a Villages team that has, I think they've been impressive kind of with the slow build of the program, and we'll hear from Coach Harper. He's kind of talked about that. They're off to a very good start, undefeated on the season. And for Lecanto, you step out of district after playing your first district game. Did not go
not well
like
at all.
The Panthers wanted. And look, you give Hernando a ton of credit because they do what they do. They're a talented running team, but I think, as we'll hear from the Panthers, they said it. They got embarrassed, and that can't happen again. And that's kind of been their attitude.
Yeah, 67-7 was the final score, and they've been outscored 119-42 in their game. So it's really important for them to kind of build themselves up a little bit here and see if they could come in here and hang it to Villages. I'm not saying that they're going to have and score, but they haven't scored that much. It's just the Villages got a pretty potent offense. They've outscored their opponents 122. They've only given up 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key. And you talked about Lecanto's offense. Had a really good game against Hudson.
Yeah.
And that, has sort of been it. So they're going to have to figure out some consistency. And, I don't – losing a game is never good. Getting blown out is never good. But I got the sense that, this team was angry. They were mad. They don't want that kind of loss to be hanging over their heads. They don't want to lose that way. And, sometimes, and I know hopefully Coach Harper will not hit me for saying this, but, you lose a close game, maybe you feel too good about yourself. You lose like they did, and they've come out to practice this week mad and angry.
No, it's true.
And it's like you got to dig in and say, no, this is not acceptable. And that seems like that's the attitude. If that will carry over to Friday night, I don't know, because the Villages is a talented football team.
No, they are. And they've got a couple of players there. Mac Harris, he's 15-28. He's actually really passing well. And then you got Bryce Mulatto, 26 for 317 yards. So those 2 players right there account for 90% of their offense. But you've got to recognize, and I think Coach Harper will recognize, is that if they can slow that down and just have a chance, keep themselves in the ball game. 67-7, yes, you're right. That's an embarrassment, and I hate to say that, Lecanto, but that's one of those things when you get past 45, on the point scoreboard, you got to look at it and say, hey, what can we do better? What can we get out there and better? And that's what you said on the practice field. That's what they need to do, and I think that's what Coach Harper will have.
Yeah, and that was the attitude from Lecanto this week. Here's Coach Harper talking about this week and some of his players really emphasizing that last week can't happen.
Oh, yeah, they're really good. Coach Pettis over there has done a really nice job with that program, and we got to find a way to hang with them and hopefully keep it close, and in the fourth quarter find a way to win it.
I was watching film last night when Coach posted it up. They got a nice quarterback now. He throws the ball and he runs very quick, and he scrambles good. So if we can lock him down and the running back they got, I think we'll be fine.
Last week was absolutely terrible. We're just going to try to move away from that, and we have a mindset to just go and be our upcoming challenge, which is the Villages. And, Coach Harper says that we have at least almost either the weekend or 24 hours to forget about either the previous week or whatever that has happened, whether it's a win or a loss. And we can't just sit on a loss forever. We have to pick it up and face our next challenge.
Oh, there's a lot of football. Like I said, I'm not quite sure what caused the anomaly of last week, but I feel positive we can push through this week and start competing like I know we can.
Now, he mentioned it right there, compete, and I think that's...
And he said the word anomaly, so
anomaly.
It's going to be something out of the normal.
Compete, and, they also talked about what you said, Mike, which was, let's take it into the fourth quarter. Let's give ourselves a chance this week, and that's going to be the challenge because the Villages are 3-0.
Yeah, you heard the I'm sorry, I forget the name of the player, but he just said, we didn't play well. And I mean, you don't normally hear that from players. They're trying to kind of helping out. Hey, we're okay. We'll be there. You know, but he said we didn't play well, and that's right there. Is saying that you're not trying to whitewash anything. Let's get to work. Let's get that out there and see what we can do.
Yeah, like I said, I genuinely got the feeling that they were angry, mad, and frustrated. And like I said, sometimes when you've got to look yourself in the mirror and say we've got to be better. I mean, you're not blaming it on the officials. You're not blaming it on turnovers. You're just saying we were not good enough to the challenge that the other team put forth. We've got to be better, and hopefully it will help motivate them. And I think Coach Harper believes he's going to get a great effort from his kids. They also talked about offensively scoring some points. Nathan Kopp, Hunter Pitts are two of the guys that really make that offense go. They're going to need to put up some numbers this week. Ryan Rodgers, the quarterback, is going to have to throw the ball a little bit, I think, to stay in this one. No question about it. So a district contest down at Hernando High School, and we were just talking about Lecanto. We know what Hernando did to them last week, and that is where the Citrus High Hurricanes are headed this week. I'm out of practice talking to Coach Varnador and said there's no good time to play anybody, I guess, but you lose a tough game to Crystal River where they felt like they gave it away. They felt like that they should have won that football game if it wasn't for their own mistakes. He talked about that a lot, self-inflicted wounds. I said, does it help that you're not going to have that hangover of loss to a district rival because you look at who you're about to play, could be the best team in the district.
Yeah, definitely. And they did have chances, and he's exactly right. I mean, except for a couple of turnovers and not scoring it a couple times in the red zone, they're in this game. And just for a couple of explosive plays with DeAndre Parker and Chris River, which we'll talk about later, that's where the difference is, really. And they had some chances, and they just didn't capitalize on them. And they had the defense. They held the Chris River Pirates to, 0 points, I believe, in the first 6 points in the first half. 6 points,
but that was defensive.
It was a defensive score.
That was a pick six. And that will be the one thing, and I asked them about that, was you did a great job against a very talented Crystal River offense with a couple of dynamic players. You're going to face a similar type team in the sense that they've got 3 or 4 kids that can rush the football. They can pound you on the ground. They can put up points. So I think defensively, Citrus feels like, okay, we found something last week. If we do that again this week, we should be in the game again, and now it's incumbent upon our offense and special teams to not make mistakes.
3 turnovers and special teams, and it's a different ball game, and that's exactly what. You're talking about a pick 6, they fumble in the red zone, and another pick 6, and then, of course, the return. The issue for me is you got to watch out, and you're right, exactly right, Brett. Isaac Fields for Hernando, 65 carries for 610 yards, very similar running style to DeAndre Parker and Jaden Williams. If they can do that and gap themselves and play gap defense, they're going to be okay. It's just getting that offense on track and making sure that they can get some points on the board.
Yeah, they need something good to happen offensively early in this one. I firmly believe it. But if you get an effort like you had last week on defense, I think the Canes feel like the more they're in these games in the fourth quarter, the more they're going to have a chance to pull one out. Obviously, week 1 against Land O'Lakes, they had a chance, weren't able to pull it out. It was still a reasonable game for most of it against Dunellen, couldn't pull it out. And then last week, again, midway through the fourth quarter, they have a chance to get the ball back and take the lead, and it just didn't work out. So
finishing. That's what a lot of coaches preach. Finish the game, finish out the play, finish out your assignment, finish.
And that's exactly what Coach Varnador talked about. That exactly what you said, Mike. It's about finishing when you get the opportunity.
The kids have had a great attitude this week. They're not tapping out, which is all we can ask them to do. If they come out and give us 100% every day with great attitude, great effort, then it's on us as coaches. And so that's something we've been preaching is if they're giving us everything we've asked them to do, then we have to do a better job to put them in a position to be successful. So that's been our mantra in the coach's office, and our kids have come out and have a very solid couple days, and hopefully we can close out the next 2 days of practice strong, and hopefully we can come out and be right there with Hernando.
Our defense is playing very well. Coach Chop has a great scheme with that defense. The linebackers are flowing. Defensive line is strong, tackling those running backs very well. And it took a while, for Crystal River to get a first down. And I think if our defense can play a little better than we did last week, we should be able to get those running backs and hold them down.
I think there's the confidence defensively that they can get the job done. But 0-4 Citrus at 4-0 Hernando. It will be a tough challenge for the Canes. And, you always, I think, have to worry about where your team is mentally. And I think you hope, and Coach Varner talked about good week of practice, come in with a good attitude, and they've got to avoid kind of getting punched in the mouth early. And if they hang around, maybe they can make a couple plays. And you never know. I mean, the gap, I think, in talent from top to bottom in the district is not so wide, especially if you're Citrus, who tied for the district championship last year with Hernando. They've got to come in, kind of wipe the slate clean, and get ready to knock off a team that, in essence, kept them out of the playoffs last year. You know, that loss to Hernando proves to be huge, because if they win that game, they win the district championship. So, you've got that motivation, plus the hunger that Coach Varnador talked about, which is, we just want to win a football game. We got to win a football game.
Yeah, and they're missing a couple explosive players from last year, but they've got Zaire Wilcox, who ran the ball really well. They need to get some upfront movement on their line and make sure they're pushing some guys around and play through into the fourth quarter. And they've got to do that. Hernando, Coach Casimir's got those guys running on all four cylinders, and I tell you what, 185 points fielded, 57 against. They're averaging 350 on the ground. I mean, it's going to be tough to stop. But if they can get that running game stopped, the passing game on Hernando is not that good. So if they force them in third and longs, I think that's going to be the difference right there.
Yeah, I mean, you look back, and we saw Hernando a couple times last year, and I know it's a coaching change, but I think it's a lot of the same philosophy. Yeah. When they get down and have to get away from their bread and butter, it's a little more difficult for them. I mean, they like to get out to an early lead. Every team does, obviously. It makes it easier to call plays and run your offense. But I think for a team that's heavy on one side or the other, if you can make Hernando unsuccessful on the ground and throw the ball, I think you like your chances, which means you're going to have to get out to a lead. And that's been the difficult part, because they're scoring at will. And, the other thing is, because they get out to those early leads, and I'm not saying their defense is not good, but you get out to an early lead, the other team is going to have to change some things. Yeah. Maybe offensively, they're going to have to throw the ball a little more. So I think that would be part of the game plan for Citrus this week. Let's get ahead and maybe make them do something they haven't had to do yet this year. Let's play a close game.
Yeah, and you got to remember, that was an adjustment at the halftime, because it was a close game at halftime at Citrus, and it just kind of exploded in the second half. And we'll talk about Chris River and Coach Lowry coming up, but they exploited the right side of that line away from their Citrus big defensive tackle there, 325 pounds. So they made the most of it and game planned it after the halftime, and made the most of the game itself. So I think that's Citrus, if they can get some kind of continuity on that left side and maybe shore up the line a little bit over there, maybe put some linebackers over there or something, I think they'll be fine. They just got to watch Isaac Fields. He's going to be a kind of a hard person to take down.
Yeah, key on him, but you also got to keep an eye on Hale Bronson as well, a very good runner who's played a lot of football the last 3 years out at Hernando High School. Okay, the big one of the week, it is our game of the week. You can watch it live on YouTube. Citrus Preps is where you can find us, and we appreciate everybody who's tuned in over the last few weeks, and great feedback, and looking forward to this one.
123 subscribers now. We're getting up there.
Yeah, getting up there. I was just amusing myself by taking a look at some of the different countries that have found on Friday night. This is the big one, Nature Coast against Crystal River. Obviously just the second district game of 6 for these two teams, but I think when we get to the final week of district play, this game will have a lot to do with who is in the playoffs, who's going to win the district championship, and who's on the edge and going to need some wins and some points to get there, because we talked about it going into the first game of district last year. Nature Coast, Crystal River, and Hernando look like the 3 teams that are battling for the district title and probably battling for 2 playoff spots. It's going to be hard to get 3 teams in from the same district, the way the point system's set up, and 4 districts, in one bunch, and only 8 teams making it. So this is a huge one. And it's going to come down to execution and who can make the big plays, because both teams are capable of big plays.
They are, and it's going to be great, because who would have thought we were talking about Chris River? Because in the beginning of the season, we were thinking new coach, coming back, revamped offense, revamped defense, all the things that comes with a new coach. But then now, two games in, we were talking about, hey, these are the top 3, and these top 3 of the top 3, 2 of them are meeting here in the second game, in the districts. So Chris River, Nature Coast is a predominantly run team, but they do have some passing advantages. But I think, Chris River is majorly a run team.
Yeah.
And that's where Nature Coast is really going to do it. They've got 155 points they scored against 57 they've given up. They've got a good defense. It's not just because it's offense, but I tell you what, this is going to be a really barn burner, I think. I think what's going to happen is that these are going to go up and down the fields, and we'll see if the last one scores, has the ball.
Yeah, could be, absolutely. I mean, this is a Crystal River group, and I've talked about it several times. 11 seniors who've played a lot of football over the last few years on the varsity level. They've played this Nature Coast team close a couple of times, and so I think they don't have the intimidation factor. They don't feel like they're going to be out of the game. I know they're confident after what's happened the first 4 weeks, but the question for Crystal River is, can you stop Michael Weston, their big, bruising running back who is just churning up the yards, finding the end zone right and left.
1,000 yards right now already.
Yeah, and they changed coaches at Nature Coast, but it remains the same. I mean, you've got Matt Breed in the NFL for the 49ers. Came from
leading the NFL right now.
From Deshaun Smith. We watched him run wild for years, and now it's Michael Weston's turn. So coaches and schemes, philosophies may change the same, but you're going to have to stop a Nature Coast running back if you're going to win, and that will be the challenge for Crystal River this week.
Crystal River's defense is like a bend but don't break, and then in the fourth quarter they just basically stop you. They make the play, and they make a play at the fourth quarter. You'll see it going back and forth. They've scored 120 points, but they've given up 92, and that shows me that they're going to go back and forth, and they're going to try to score with you. And I think if Cliff Lowry can design some kind of a defense to I shouldn't say shut down Weston. You will not shut him